All right, John chapter 9. Very interesting story. It's the story of a blind man who was born blind, and Jesus heals him. Now, there's a few peculiar things. We won't read the story because the whole chapter 9 is just that story. But there's a few peculiar things. One, he's born blind. The text is clear that never before anyone healed a man who was born blind, which means that there must have been some occasions where someone who had lost sight recovered sight, but that had never happened. And there is a curiosity that you might never heard, which I'm about to unpack to you. That is the method that Jesus used. So here's the story. Let me tell you the story, and then I'll tell you these two things. Why it's important that he was born blind, because that's a prophecy, and that's a confirmation that John the Baptist has. And also that, what was that? He was born blind, and the way Jesus did it. Yeah, the methodology. So this guy is born blind. Jesus goes along. What do you want? Oh, I want to see. So he heals the guy. How does he heal the guy? He, again, Sabbath. Sabbath, very important. Jesus apparently has this preferred method to do it on the Sabbath. And Jesus, well, the Bible says that Jesus spat on mud, made a little thing, put it in his eyes, and then said, go wash yourself in the pool of Siloam, which is interesting, because Siloam means sent, or Siloam or Siloam, depending on how you read it. It means sent. So go wash yourself. Remember Ezekiel 36. You'll be washed by sprinkling of water. Remember John chapter 5, the pool of Bethesda. So go wash yourself in the pool of Siloam. Why? Because most of the priests, when people were sick with leprosy or something, they would come to that pool and they would wash themselves, and the priest would give them a blessing. So go there, show yourself to the priest. Follow the things, follow the pattern. Because I want the priest to see now. Because I already told them everything that they need to hear, but apparently they don't want to believe. So go show yourself to them. So there you go. But it's Sabbath, and there is mud and spit. Now, the first important thing is, never before that had happened. So the story goes on, and the Pharisees go like, weren't you born blind? They're like, yeah, I was born blind. What happened? Well, I don't know, man. This man called Jesus came, spat on my face, and I can see. Like, what? Yeah, that's how he did. Did he do that? Yeah. Oh, we're gonna get him. We're gonna get him because he cannot do that. And the guy was like, why not? Like, I was blind. Now see, why not? So I'll ask you again. How did it happen? I told you already, man. Like, this guy came to me, put some mud on my eyes, spat on my face, or spat on the mud. I don't know. And I see. That's all I know. I see. Oh, we don't believe you. Call your parents. Call his parents. His parents come along. And it's like, look, is this your son? Yes, that's my son. Was he born blind? Yeah, we know he was born blind. How come he sees? Oh, look, that one we don't know. Like, all I know is that he's my son. He was born blind. We've lived with the man for like a long time. Now, he's of age. Ask him, and he will tell you. And they did it because they feared being ejected from the synagogue, because the synagogue was the center of social life. So they didn't want to be, expelled from the synagogue, and they didn't want to. They feared the Sanhedrin. So they go back to the guy, and the guy gets tired and go like, you know what? Look, I don't know. All I know is that I was blind. Now I see. That's it. And then they get furious and they go after Jesus. So that's the first part of the story. Now, the second part of the story that you probably never heard before is why Jesus used mud with spit in that particular way on a Sabbath. He could have done that on a Friday. He could have just said, look, recover sight, and he would have had it. Now, I've heard some people saying, he used clay or mud because God formed man out of mud, and therefore he needed to create new eyes in the guy. The Bible doesn't say that. The Bible doesn't say that. So, if it doesn't say it, and remember in the introduction, I told you the New Testament is prescriptive, not descriptive, and it is authoritative. So whatever it says, that's what it means. All right? It's not like, it could be this, it could be that. No, whatever it says, that's what it means. So what happened was, on the Sabbath, Jesus got mud, spat on the mud, rubbed it on his face, told him to go wash it in the pool of the one who sent, Siloam. So sent, Jesus, sent from God above, all of that makes sense. But the reason why he did it is that the Pharisees had composed this document called the Mishnah. And I can't remember exactly where it is in the Mishnah. 21 something or 214, something like that. But there is one they don't call it verse in the Mishnah. I forgot what they call it. But there is one part of the Mishnah, an interpretation of the law, that talks about how they could heal people. If you have ever watched the Chosen series, again, a reference to that, in the first episode, there's someone pursuing, I think it's Mary Magdalene or someone else who's possessed of a demon, and they are very cautious because they can't do certain things on a Saturday. So they keep chasing her until they come to a point where they see healing, and then she's testifying and all of that. So they were very zealous of how they did something or anything on a Sabbath. In that Mishnah, there is a clear declaration that one cannot heal on a Sabbath using spit and mud. It's written right there, and Jesus knew that. It's written right there that you cannot heal anyone on a Sabbath with mud and spit, because they believed that it was medicinal. Mud was medicinal, and we still believe that. You go to New Zealand, for example, there's some pool of mud and hot water that apparently it's good for your body. I don't know who'll be rolling on the mud anyway, but it was written right there in the Mishnah. No healing on the Sabbath using mud and spit. What did Jesus do? Jesus goes back and goes, you know what? Oh, it's a Saturday. It's today's Saturday. All right, cool. This is going to be cool. This guy's blind. No one's ever done that before. I know because I was there before. So here's some mud. Here's some spit. Rub it in his... Now, go wash yourself and tell them that I spat on it. Tell them that I've done exactly what they told me not to do. And he does that. So Jesus gets in trouble because of that. So that's the gist of chapter 9, when Jesus deals with mud, the Mishnah, again, breaking the concepts and the normals or the normal standard of how Jesus or how the Jewish people did things. And just because I spoke about mud, now I want to go back to the beginning of chapter 8 when Jesus writes on the sand. It's very famous. Remember, we skipped that because it wasn't part of the chronological text, but now it makes sense that this story with the woman caught in adultery, right on the sand, all of that. So let's go back there.